Hey, do you like maniacs? And do you like spinach? Then you would probably like this green pike skin which we are giving away on our Discord. We are running a meme competition there. The rules are simple. You have to make a meme yourself. It has to be themed around the lore of League of Legends or our channel. So anything from Gragas to Fire All Around is fine. In about 14 days we will review the winners live on stream. Unfortunately, we only have codes for EU West and EU Northeast. So if you are from the other regions, you can also join the competition for fun. So if you are interested, the link will be below. After the release of Freljord Silas, a skin that was based on Silas's ongoing story, I was excited to see more skins based on lore. Unfortunately, since then we didn't get much more. There were the Black Frost skins, which represent what would happen if these champions got corrupted by true ice. But it's nothing that would reflect the canon lore. Thankfully, instead of giving us a new skin, Riot did something equally as cool. Some champions have skins that were always assumed to be inspired by the lore, but they never got a direct confirmation, such as Ionian Yi, which right now is a random skin without explanation, or Renegade Talon, which might be referencing what he looked like when he was living on the streets. Well, last week one of these skins, specifically Spirit Guardian Udyr, who we always thought to be representing what he looked like on his journey to Ionia, did get a confirmation in the form of a proper story. So I can now say that yes, this skin is what Udyr looked like after he followed Lee Sin to Ionia. But what's even better is that, as you'll see by the end of the video, there are some hints that strongly suggest that Udyr might be the next mysterious champion rework. But more on that later. It's been a while since we have talked about Udyr, so before we jump into the latest story, let's quickly sum up what happened to him. Udyr comes from Freljord, where certain people are gifted with a deeper connection to the spirit magic. These warrior shamans, known as spirit walkers, serve different tribes by guiding them through the lands, in exchange for a safe place in their community. Udyr was born under Blood Red Moon, and from early age, he showed signs of being a strong spirit walker. He could feel the raw emotions of nearby creatures, and understand the howls of the Tundra wolves even before he was able to speak. After realizing his true potential, Udyr was taken in by the Wintersclaw tribe. While his mentors expected him to easily grow into his powers, in reality, Udyr found himself crippled by his own gifts. The ability to understand so many living things around him flooded his mind to the point of near insanity. Day and night, Udyr desperately wished for even a moment of silence. This wish would eventually be granted, but not in a way Udyr expected. One evening, the Wintersclaw fell victim to an ambush by the Frost Guard. Merciless and cruel, these sworn followers of the Ice Witch slaughtered entire families, taking special care to eliminate anyone who might be able to use spirit magic. That night, the only reason why Udyr survived was because his mentors sacrificed themselves. Filled with the screams of his tormented tribesmen, Udyr lost control. He unleashed his fury, causing an explosion of spiritual energy so strong it shook nearby mountaintops. This started an avalanche which forced the Frost Guard to flee. When Udyr clawed his way out of the snow, he found only a few survivors. After that, fearing his destructive power, the Wintersclaw would have abandoned him, was it not for one Iceborn who looked past Udyr's inner turmoil. It was a woman who saw Udyr as a man with strengths and flaws like anyone else. And as the two got to know each other, they cherished their moments together, while trying to survive in the harsh Freljordian climate. While Udyr's bio doesn't tell us more about this woman, from the story called Silence for the Damned, we know that Udyr is Sejuani's father, with her mother being Kalkia, an Iceborn warrior of the Wintersclaw who later died in a duel with Grena, who was Ashe's mother and the leader of the Avarosans. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Outside of Udyr's relationship with Kalkia, he spent most of his time alone, because the mere sight of him scared others away. That was until the day Udyr met a monk who traveled far from foreign lands. This man was looking for the wisdom of those who could tap into the spirits of primal beasts. Wary of all strangers, Udyr attacked this monk again and again, only to find him dodging every blow. After a while, when both of them were exhausted, the monk introduced himself as Lee Sin, and Udyr noticed that just like himself, Lee Sin was also dealing with inner struggles. The two men quickly forged a friendship, with Lee Sin offering to take Udyr east to Ionia, a place where entire generations had studied how to keep the spirits at peace. On their travels, they learned that Noxus had invaded Ionia, and Udyr offered back to fight alongside his friend in defending the monastery at Hirana. There, as the battle raged, Udyr showcased his abilities, as he drew upon the strength of mighty beasts, channeling their power into his mortal fists. After a fierce and fiery battle, Udyr stood beside the wounded monks. They were victorious. Encouraged by the Ionians' understanding of the spirit realm, Udyr chose to stay and train under the elders of Hirana. He appreciated how the people here valued harmony, and over the seasons he spent there, he felt his mind and body calmed by their compassion. But still, Udyr could not deny the call of his homeland. He heard the anxious cries of Freljordian spirits carried by the freezing western winds, and he sensed great danger stirring beyond the horizon. So, bidding farewell to Ionia and Lee Sin, he set out to rejoin the Winter's Claw, knowing not how he would be received. That's where Udyr's bio ends. After this, he got the Silence for the Damned story, which takes place in the present times. If you'd like to listen to the full story, we have a video up on the channel covering it. The short version is that currently, Udyr returned to the Winter's Claw to guide Sejuani and her people, and make sure she is safe. Interestingly, it seems like Sejuani doesn't even know that Udyr is her father. Either way, in the present times, Sejuani struck a deal with the Ursine who worshipped the Volibear. The Volibear itself nearly dominated Sejuani's mind and claimed her people. But at the last moment, using his spirity abilities, Udyr broke out of the Volibear's control and stopped Sejuani from sealing the pact. The thing is, Sejuani's people were in danger and they needed the Volibear's help to survive. So, in the end, they made a smaller pact. But that's just me oversimplifying it. Once again, we have a full video on it up if you want. So now you may be asking, where does the new story fit in exactly? Well, the new story is bridging the gap between Udyr returning from Ionia and rejoining the Winter's Claw. So without further ado, here's the story A Walk with the Voices, which shows us what it was like for Udyr to come back to Freljord. The story begins with Udyr traveling through eastern Freljord. He heard the cry of an eagle far above him. The voice was strong, confident, but it was too far away to get into Udyr's own thoughts. That day, he walked alone. He hiked up the mountain slopes of Winterspike, its chill wind reminding him of Ionia's eternal beauty. Here the story specified when this was happening. It mentioned that he left the lands of Ionia only a few months ago. And as he left, the monks of Hirana gave him a parting gift. A riddle intended to guide him on his path to mastering his spiritual powers. It said, "Below Winter's Peak, nature's pure life essence flows, now transformed to glass." To Udyr, the riddle sounded a lot better in the Ionian language than his own. But regardless, it didn't take him long to figure it out. After spending months traveling with Lee Sin, he learned how to decipher the meaning behind Ionian words. On the slopes of Winterspike, Udyr found a massive frozen lake. At its edges were the bones and corpses of wild beasts, as well as those of dead shamans and priests who came to this place either months, years, or even lifetimes before Udyr. This place was the glass the riddle was talking about. As Udyr looked down, he saw his own reflection in the ice. It showed the face of a man, rugged and worn from his travels. This scene is also shown in the art used for the story. And this is where it's revealed that Spirit Guardian Udyr is in fact what Udyr looked like after he returned from Ionia. Interestingly enough, later when he rejoins the Winter's Claw, he looks far more wild again, revealing that this clean Udyr was just a phase. It lasted only as long as his memories of peaceful Ionia. Then, Udyr heard it. They were coming. The ice began to crack, and soon it splintered into massive pieces which floated apart. Udyr just stood there, waiting respectfully. The water beneath the ice bubbled, and steam rose from its surface. Udyr took a quiet breath and readied himself. Out of the mist leapt a beast of ice, carved by the land's magic and birthed from the lake. The ground trembled as it took a thundering step toward Udyr. The beast was easily 3 times his height. In Udyr's head, the murmurs started low and soft, but they quickly grew, bitter and restless. The beast urged Udyr to step closer, to raise his voice and show them why he has returned. But all Udyr had was the strength to gasp, as his knees buckled under the weight of the noise in his head. His hand slammed the ground to steady his body. Then he glared up at the creature, not willing to answer. The voices rose at the sight of Udyr's inaction, with the tiger roaring above the rest. It mocked Udyr, telling him that he did not deserve to call Freljord his home. He was weak. Udyr braced himself as the spirit rammed its head into him, shards of its icy body cutting into his skin. Tumbling far across the ground, Udyr landed against the hard rock. After regaining his balance, he wiped the blood off his face and forced his hands into fists. Veins pulsated from his hands to his shoulders now. He stood ready to deflect another blow, but he resisted the urge to give in to the inner wrath. The spirit roared once more that the strong fight. Instead, he stifles his voice and cowers. Udyr tried dodging the incoming attack, but his opponent was quicker and stronger. As Udyr rolled aside, the tiger swiped its claws, spraying Udyr's blood across the frosted ground. Udyr knelt on one knee in pain. He felt his own anger building, but he held it back, still resisting the urge to give in. The spirit walked closer, letting out a feral cry before pouncing toward Udyr. Realizing he could not dodge in time, he crossed his arms before him and clenched his fists. Magical energy surrounded him, blocking the tiger spirit's lethal blow. The spirit slid backward. After regaining its footing, it grinned through its fangs. Its icy body crackled with vicious energy, splintering the bones of its past victims beneath its feet. Udyr knelt on both knees now, his head down, his body pounding with pain, while the spirit paced around him. He felt the ground shake with its every step. Still, in his head, Udyr kept telling himself that this was not the way. He grinned his teeth, their points drawing blood from his lips as he felt the ground tremble once more. The voices boomed again, telling him that the weak were prey. When Udyr looked up, he saw how the spirit's eyes lusted for blood. They were so wide he saw the reflection of his own eyes, which lusted for violence. With Ionia still in his memory, golden flames erupted from Udyr's skin, the anger coursing through his body, matching the fury of the tiger before him. The spirit was glad to see that finally, the prey decided to fight. Udyr roared as he rushed straight at the tiger spirit. He jumped onto the beast's leg, and he climbed its razor-sharp icy surface. The creature shook, letting the sharp edges of its body pierce Udyr's skin. Udyr screamed then, relishing in his might. At long last, his wrath matched the fire of his foe, as the two reveled in their savage violence. After getting onto the beast's back, Udyr unleashed a flurry of explosive blows, creating a web of cracks on its icy body. Then, howling with pure rage, Udyr threw back his head, and he sank his fangs deep into the spirit's neck. He expected the spirit to tumble over, its body break apart, giant lumps of ice disappearing to dust. But when he opened his eyes, it was already gone, along with the voices. All he heard was the eagle call high above him. In that moment, he was focused, calm. Udyr fell and staggered onto the solid ground. Breathing heavily, he lay next to the lake and watched the last of his enemy vanish. Suddenly, he heard another rumbling and stumbled to his feet. The lake, as if celebrating his victory, began to melt, rising the water level to wash over the cold, hard land. Remembering the ritual he had repeated countless times at Hirana, Udyr limped forward. Cupping his hands, he splashed cool water across his head, shoulders and back, rinsing his wounds clean. Then, gently, he took a drink. He stared at his reflection, seeing a man looking back, wounded, tested, alive. He told himself that he is who he is. Udyr heard only the sound of flowing water, and yet he did not smile. The fight was far from over. And that is the new story. It essentially was a test, where the spirits of Freljord would see if Udyr was truly still a Freljordian. Only after proving himself to the primal spirits of Freljord would Udyr be able to channel their powers in their full might. At least that's what I got from this. What's interesting is that he learned about this ritual from the monks at Hirana. I wonder how they learned about it. Either way, this story strongly hints that the next visual rework might be Udyr. Because right now we have the old Udyr, the Udyr after he became at peace with himself in Ionia, and the wild Udyr who's trying to suppress the voices of the powerful spirits of the far north. And the reason why the rework might be Udyr is because Riot told us that the next rework wasn't in the polls. So if it's not one of the Voidborn, it has to be Udyr. Just look at him. What's awesome is that all the new stories reveal all the different beasts Udyr can channel. Right now we know that besides the tiger, bear, turtle and phoenix stances, he can also channel stuff like the lynx, the ram, or even the iron boar. The Silence for the Damned reveal that he has dozens of different stances. And I really wanna see how will the rework go, since they've had trouble with making skins for only 4 different models.